Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And today just might have been one of the heaviest insides. Well, no, that's not true. But it was pretty heavy today. I was in it. It was a lot of contemplation. Not only that, I kind of felt like I was just kind of fine combing everything. Like I thought like when you do a test in school and at the very last minute you look up at the clock and you go, oh my goodness, my test is done, but I got 3 more minutes. And then you spend that 3 more minutes going over everything to make sure everything is perfect, that you right we'll never get it right. This is a process. If I haven't learned anything, I have learned that it has been a process, and I don't beat myself up a lot, being highly sensitive and being empathic. We quite often we carry a lot of that guilt. We carry a lot of shame which doesn't belong to us, but because guilt and shame is usually tagged together, we take them both on. And that is something that I have come to. Hello, Eugene. Very good. I hope you're having a great night too. First one in tonight. If there's anything I've learned, that we do take on a lot. And that is something we could actually feel good about in the end, even if it's not our intent to do it. It shows our heart, it shows our good intent when we, I don't know, mess up in those little ways that benefit others. Oh my goodness. And just saying that, I have to say, my whole family just kind of went into a frenzy this afternoon, and I was in a frenzy already before that. This just contributed to the platter. But my sister was supposed to be at my niece's house earlier this afternoon, and she was like 2 hours late. She wasn't answering her phone. They couldn't get a hold of her. My brother in law started phoning every family member, every friend, phoned her probably 20 or 30 times, got all of us to phone her. It put me in a little bit of a frantic mood, only because I don't know, that sense, like I was saying about that test, and you have those few minutes to do the final detailing and make sure all you got all your T's crossed, and right? And and it put me in a little bit of a panic in that. And of course, I phoned her. She didn't answer her phone. And I said, well, what can I do? Right? If she's not answering her phone, if I can't get a hold of her, all we can do is wait, right? My brother in law's thinking she got in a car accident. I don't know what my niece thought of, but right away she was messaging me, have you seen Alice? And like, I just tried to calm her down. I said, Alice, she's always late for everything, kind of runs in the family. She's kind of late for everything. And I just sat here and I just imagined my sister Alice, and I just put the sparkly blue light and I just let it stream all over. That was the only thing I could think of to do in the moment, right? That physical part of me, there was really nothing I could do. I could send her out some good cheer, but I was in that little bit of a panic mode there. So all I could do is I could cover her in the blue light. That's the thing about the blue light, right? That's what you divvy out. We were talking about the froth that comes over the mug. That's what we give away, that extra. Lots of people, they give away that white light, and that white light is supposed to be for us. And that's one thing, I don't know where I picked that up, but when I'm doing that for myself, when I'm having a hard day or I've got problems or anything, I get a little bit worried, I'll stream that white light. I know it sounds funny, but I do. I just imagine myself under white, sparkling Wizard of Oz light, you know what I mean? And I just put it all over me. And that's what you're supposed to use for yourself is that white, silvery, sparkly, if you want to put the sparkles in there, that light is for you. The blue light is when you want to send it out to somebody else who's not feeling good or they have illnesses or they messed up somewheres and they need a little bit of help in that. And so you send the blue light to them, right? And you do the same thing. Put some sparkles in it if you want, and then you just put that good mojo and that good blue light over them, and that is non-transferable. That's just for them, right? And you can always notice when they give it away, and that's why the blue light is for others, is because there are people out there that will take that blue light that you're offering up to them, and they'll divvy it out to their counterparts, their side chicks, right? To people who are not in need of it, but will make use of it, right? This is the way I think. And you can always tell because they get really sick on it if they're munching it down. I always know when somebody has taken a little bit of light that doesn't belong to them because they'll end up with a tummy ache or a headache or something. But it is in our nature to want to give that out, right? We want everybody to feel good, including ourselves. But it was something that I learned. And so, when we couldn't find my sister Alice today, we thought, oh my goodness, car accident. I thought she fell asleep because she hasn't been feeling really great lately. So I thought maybe she had fallen asleep and maybe left her phone in the living room. But it didn't matter what it was. I just sent her that blue light and I just covered her in the blue light. 2 minutes later, she showed up at my niece's house. So that was pretty cool. So I just kind of like, good girl, Cindy, right? I'll take the credit for that one. And not the credit for that she got to my nieces all safe and sound. It was to get everybody else's system calmed down in that because everybody was totally stressed out. So I was glad that it all worked out. And I went back to doing my own thing, which was really putting myself in that little bit of, right, crossing your T's and making sure everything is okay. And also a little bit of second guessing myself, when it comes to perspectives, when it comes to going back into looking, I do a lot of, they call it shadow work. I go into the past and I look at those dynamic relationships in my life and those crazy experiences and those sad experiences and those painful experiences and the scary ones, but the good ones too, right? And really take a look because lots of times, when we're in those bad situations, when we're getting cornered by somebody else's perspective or we can't get out of a situation and we just have to endure it. We sometimes should, right? If we can actually feel out the intent in that to make sure that when you come into days like today when you're crossing your T's and you're checking your I's that you're not making mistakes in the way you feel, in the way you think, in your truth, right? And your truth is your perspective, right? Right? A perspective is something that you believe in. It's yours. You've done your homework. the perception part. That's the work, right? That's the process of learning and coming to an understanding, coming to a perspective for yourself. Once you got that, that's your belief. That doesn't mean that's the be all to end all, because we can make mistakes in perspectives depending on who we're listening to, or what we're reading, or what we're experiencing in our systems without really feeling it out, because we're just experiencing it, right? We're thinking, oh my goodness, let's just get this over. Let's just get this over, right? And we're not really going in and saying, well, why is this happening? Who are the characters in this? What is the intent, right? And even look at ourselves to say, oh my goodness, are we misstepping? Are we making mistakes? Did we come to a wrong conclusion? Is our perspective wrong? Because we have to be willing, right, in our beliefs to make course corrections. That's the biggest part about making movement, right? Movement forwards, like some of the things that we used to believe in, right? And we know now that's just like the silliest thing ever, like bloodletting, right? Right? That's the stupidest thing ever. Kings died from bloodletting, and we know it not to be a true form of making somebody well. And there are lots of things in the world that we believe to be true, but because of where we are at right now in our stage of evolution, in this era of such innovation, that we can actually look at things and look at things in a different perspective. But that means we have to go back into the perceptions, right? And go through that process again to come to a new belief. That new belief that bloodletting was just like one of the stupidest things ever, right? But it is in our stumbling, it is in making mistakes that eventually we get things right. How long it takes to get things right, I don't know. It depends on how many times we fail and whether or not we quit because it's too difficult, too painful, or if we just pick ourselves up, dust our knees off, and try again. And it might take 100 times, but if somebody's doing it one time every 100 years, right? That's 1,000 years. But if you do one once a week, that's 2.5 months that maybe we could get to the point where we actually have the correct answers, right? The right perspectives. It's not usually how it works. It's not usually a 10-week process. I come to learn. I come to learn that too. It's a lifetime process. It's a lifetime process. And then when that process is over, right? We just get dumped right back into another lifetime, and it becomes another process. But eventually we'll get things right. But it is in it's important to stay soft, but that doesn't mean be stupid, be naive. I was that very naive person my entire life, right? If somebody said blue, I would say, okay, that red is definitely blue, right? Just not to cause waves, to keep everything nice and calm, right? Not to make anybody else feel foolish, or even worse, sometimes trigger them where it becomes painful, right? And when it becomes painful, well, then we're less reluctant to step forward when it calls for us to check one of those 10 things off of our list, right? That's evolution into each one of us. Like I say all the time, it's in our choices, right? It's always in our choices, and we can choose to do one a year, or we can choose to do one a week. We can do one an hour, but how well do we go over? We're not going to be able to cross the T's. We're not going to have a few minutes after that test to kind of check to make sure that everything's okay, because we just kind of rushed through it. And what do they call that? They call that bypassing. That's why so many people wake up to their own ideas and those ideas are nothing, right? They're just blanks. And then they just have to go off of somebody else's perspective. I love perspectives. Don't get me wrong. Hello, Tammy. Hello, Tammy. I love perspectives. I love listening to other people's ideas, because I truly believe that, whoever or whatever has divvied out those gifts to all kinds. Remember what I said yesterday about my dad's plaque? It takes all kinds to make the world. Oh no, that's a different one. Life is what happens to you while you're making other plans, right? Yeah, I don't know why I pulled this plaque up for that, but right, it was my saying, my quote, that it takes all kinds to make the world, because I recognize that whoever or whatever divvied out those gifts all over the place, right? And not everybody who has a perspective has a right perspective. And if we don't have any perspective at all, right, we'll grab that perspective, right? That lifeline. It's like when you're just dangling, right? You're just dangling. Like, if somebody throws you a lifeline, you're gonna grab it to save yourself, right? But that doesn't mean that that rope is tied to anything. It could be just something that's dangling, and then your weight just takes you off, right? And you've just took your hand off of that rock on that cliff, and the next thing you know, you're heading down the Grand Canyon. That wasn't a very good analogy. That sounds kind of scary. I kind of remember the Grand Canyon. My dad was a back road explorer. We talked a little bit about this yesterday about really enjoying your life, enjoying the landscapes, making the most of it, right? Right? Cindy's only got one shot around, and I would like to see some beautiful landscapes and have some wonderful adventures and experiences. And they're unique to me. Not everybody can. Tammy can attest to that, because she's been in quite a few of my different adventures. And that's not everybody's cup of tea, right? Everybody has their own loves, their own joys, those things that bring life and love and smiles into their own life. But that's what makes each one of us unique, right? But yeah, my sister, she got to my niece's house safe and sound, and everything was kind of okay. And at that point I just said, okay, Cindy, just let it go, right? Like, just try to enjoy your day, try to enjoy your evening. But then again, my curious mind, as things come across my path, and everything was flying at me. I don't know, a perspective here, perspective there. And right, it came across my path and it got me, and I went in, and a lot of it is heavy, right? We don't want to distrust the process, right? Distrust the characters in that process. But lots of times, right, it is in that intent to make us confused, little bit unsure in our footing, or put us back to the table where we're looking over to make sure, okay, I've got 3 minutes. Let's go over this just to make sure we got everything right. And sometimes you just gotta just let it go, right? Which is what I did. I made myself a cup of coffee. I made some curried rice for dinner. Tonight it was absolutely delicious. I didn't even look outside today. That's how involved in what I was doing, right? So I'm glad my brother-in-law kind of snapped me out of it when he did that, when he phoned me, right? Because he doesn't phone me very often. I probably hear from him once every couple of months. I see him about once a month, but right, for him to phone me, it's not very often, and I was a little bit worried. I actually thought that he had bought something that he wanted me to sell because he knows I take 20%. But when he said that Alice was missing, and I just like, oh my goodness, after the day, right? The perspectives and the lessons in my day, and now I've got a missing sister, and then not knowing what to do. And like I said, I just covered her in that blue light in my creative mind, and just hoped that it was enough. And like I said, 2 minutes later, my brother-in-law phoned me back and said, okay, she made it to where she was supposed to be. You were right, Cindy. She's always late. But you can't help that. And she had the whole family in a bit of a frenzy because they were phoning everybody to see, if they knew where she was. And it's not like my sister not to answer her phone, at least in a short reply or a thumbs up or something. So it was kind of off, but I was off too because like I said, I thought she was sleeping and she had left her phone in the living room. But that wasn't the case either. She was just dilly-dallying, and probably she stopped off at a couple of thrift stores to see if she could find something that she could sell. So I was glad that she was okay. Oh, thank you, Tammy. I appreciate that. Cindy, that plaque right there and saying, I just watched older video of yours, and you were talking about that same thing. You were at Silver Falls and wanting to sleep at Sleeping Giant. Oh my goodness. I love Silver Falls, right? I have been to Sleeping Giant, um, but I wasn't there for very long. It's on my list this year. I'm going back. I'm going to spend two days in Sleeping Giant this September. And we're going to walk the trails, and we are going to walk the beach. I'm going to try not to go a little bit crazy on the rocks. Um, like I said, I'm going to stop off at Diamond Willow Mine, and we're going to do a little bit of mining for amethyst. I'm going to actually do a retreat, and actually that would be a nice little short trip for you, Tammy, if you wanted to join me in a retreat to Thunder Bay to dig for amethyst. I don't know if you're a fan of rocks, but at the very least, Mother Nature, it's so beautiful. Sometimes I just go there just to sit in the forest, right? Because they have some land, and I usually go down into the bottom pits, which are older, some of the very first amethyst pits that they dug up. Most people go to the main pit to dig amethyst, but the bottom pits are really nice and it's all overgrown. And I have one spot that I've been digging a hole in. Oh my goodness, probably 5 or 6 years now. And I never fill those holes in, and other people have continued to dig into them too. But because they're one of the first pits that were done, there was so much amethyst, right? Like they say there's about 80 years of digging amethyst in this one mine that I go to. There's about 4 or 5 mines going on in that whole area. But the mine that I go digging at, it's actually a digging experience, not just picking it up off the ground. And I just love it there. It's just beautiful. The people are nice. They have a beautiful store where They make jewelry and ornaments and stuff out of their amethyst. And then outdoors, all around the store, they put the big garden rocks and little garden rocks and everything. I don't know if you've seen this one. This is one of the amethysts that I got. It doesn't do it justice, but it's just covered in amethyst. And these are called oh, bugs. That's what they're called. They're called bugs, these little holes. And that's where the crystals lay. Always curious if I broke this open, if there would be a big patch of amethyst, but there's so many little patches of crystals in there. And then, of course, I keep where did I put him? Oh, he's still there. Then I keep my monkey on top of that because you guys know I'm a big fan of evolution, right? And I keep this one. This is the one for my mantle, and I love that one. That one I'm going to keep forever. That will be, and that one I think I just picked up like 2 years ago. I've had other ones, other big ones. It was a big thing that I would at least bring one big one, and then all the ones that I would dig up. Oh, and this one I dug up. This is my dragon stone. This is a big honking piece of amethyst, and my camera doesn't do the purple justice. But if you look at it, it actually has a dragon on the front of it. Look at right here. It's a dragon. And if you turn it around, look at his tail comes out on the back of it too. Isn't that the coolest thing? But I've been hand polishing this one. So I just sit here and I use it for scratching my palms because I always have itchy palms, right? And my sister said it was a sign of winning at bingo. I can't play bingo because that's considered gambling, so I don't gamble anymore. But this one, it's slowly getting smooth, and I've had him for, oh my goodness, I've had him for about four years, maybe 5 years. And when I go on my trips, you've probably seen him too. Oh, is Sharon here? Sharon, I saw you the other night in the comments at the end. I don't know if you saw me at the end. I just saw you at the end, and right at the end, I just went, "Hi, Sharon," right at the end, but I didn't know whether or not you saw the message that I left for you. But oh, Sharon, how are you doing? Tammy, this is Sharon. Sharon's a good friend of mine. Actually, Sharon actually came to visit me here in Winnipeg. She went through the process of getting her visa, and she came out and she visited me. She almost didn't make it into the city, right? They held her in what do they call that? Uh, the border, at the border control in the airport. Oh my goodness, we weren't too sure whether or not she was gonna make it in. Yeah, that was awesome. I'll never forget that, Sharon, that you did that. Oh, it's so nice to see you. How's your son doing? And is he flying airplanes? I'd be curious to know that, how he's doing. Oh, you did catch it. Oh, awesome. Custom officers. Yeah, the officers detained her at the airport. And I was worried that she wasn't going to be. But they were really nice, though, Sharon, weren't they? They kind of bent the rules and everything for you. I'm sure after what's been going on for the past half a dozen years, they wouldn't be so lenient. But they were pretty nice. Oh, because you only had crappy insurance. Well, crappy insurance is better than no insurance because I didn't have any insurance, and I never even thought of that. That maybe I should get travel insurance. I just had my passport renewed, The first passport I bought was for 5 years, but then COVID hit and I barely got to use that visa. So I thought, well, if I just spent an extra $50, I might as well get a 10-year visa. So I've got lots of time on my visa. Well, technically lots of time because we never know how the world is gonna change, do we? It has been kind of a crazy town kind of half a dozen years. I would have to say that, right? Lots of changes going on, but change is important, right? We're supposed to be moving forward, and I hope whatever's going on in the world that it's going to be leading us somewheres better, right? Leading us to a better place. So nice to see you, Sharon. Oh my goodness. So nice to see you. And I'm glad you caught my little hello to you at the end. I just looked right at the very end when I hit that end button. I went, oh my goodness, there's Sharon. And I got all excited. But I didn't think that you saw that. Um yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so that was my day. But you know what? Tomorrow is another day, isn't it? And actually, I think we've got some kind of eclipse or something going on tomorrow. Oh, I'm just looking, just somebody. I've been looking at cameras. I want to buy a camera. I'm coming into my income tax return, so I have to get my glasses 100%. That's the main priority with my taxes this year. But I'd like to check off the camera on my list because I really do need a camera. I love my Google Pixel, I really do, and I'm getting better and better at filming and stuff. And the Pixel camera is absolutely amazing. And but I'm not getting a new one this year because I'm going to enjoy the cheap phone bills for a little while. For me, when the phone bills come in, they get emailed to me and I just kind of don't even open them. I don't want to know what they are until I've got the money to pay them off. But because I'm doing my budgeting and stuff this month, I said, okay, Cindy, go see what the damage is, right? And I went into my phone bill and my phone bill was $55. I just laughed. I thought it was going to be a couple $100. I was so nervous. I didn't realize that I was all caught up on my phone bill. I didn't check my internet bill, but I checked my phone bill and I was so happy. $55 and it's not even due yet. Or maybe it's just due. It's due tomorrow, right? But I'll have some money rolling in this week and we'll get that paid off. But that's the thing, sometimes we worry and we push things off the side, we avoid them, we kind of delay what we need to do and stuff, just to recognize that if we had done it when we were supposed to, that it would have been better for us, or at very least that we were worrying for nothing, right? That we were worrying for nothing. Silly me, but I was super pleased. And then I says, oh my goodness, $55, like that's less than half of what my like. I like the deluxe plan on my phone, and I've been in the habit of every 2 years buying a new phone, right? And the Pixels, as amazing as the Pixels are, they're not exactly the cheapest phone on the market. And but I love my Pixel. But this year I thought, you know what? Let's just enjoy the nice low phone bills for a little while and really appreciate that, that we're not putting ourselves in a deficit for no reason at all. I actually even hooked my sister up with the Pixel. I talked her into getting it because she's an eBay seller. Like she really should have a good phone, a good camera. And the Pixel has so many features, like number one, Google Photos. I mean, you just can't beat Google Photos. And you take your pictures and they're stored forever if you want to. You never have to worry about it if you lose your phone. You don't have to worry about using memory cards and right little storage devices to store them all. That you could actually just take your pictures and not worry about them. You just let the Google Photos take care of them, eh? Right? And all the apps that Google have too, right? I love the Play Store, going in every once in a while and checking out the new things that they have. Like on my laptop. I very rarely use my laptop because number one, the screen is really tiny, but also there's not a lot of sound on my laptop. It doesn't go very loud, right? Unless I wear my headphones, but I'm too hyper vigilant to have headphones on and have the murderer and rapers roaming around my house, right? So I'm not a big fan of wearing headphones. So if at all possible, I just like to right listen outright. So I got speakers on my desktop, so this is where I kind of hang out during the day, is at my desktop. And then when I do my live shows and stuff, I come in here, but I don't necessarily have to use the volume except for you guys, right? But to actually come in, like I would never watch my own live show from my laptop, though I have, but the sound is so, I'm just like, oh, what, like this? And I got this new one now. What's it called? I think it's called Volume Master. Now, if you haven't got that app yet, and you have a laptop that doesn't have great sound, I know you can get little speakers and plug them in and use the wireless and stuff. But this little app, Volume Master, sounds absolutely amazing. And I was so happy when I found that. I actually only happened onto it is when I bought my new computer. It wasn't a new computer, but it works like a new computer. And and I thought that there was something wrong because the volume was so crappy, but it turned out that I had destroyed my uh, Bose Bose speakers, computer speakers. Oh, I miss those speakers. The sound on them was so amazing. I still have the speakers. I think it's just the cord. I stepped on the cord when I was cleaning. I took it apart to clean the desk or something, and I put the speakers on the floor, and then I crunched the cord, and I'm not quite sure what cord, but my speakers haven't worked properly since. And so I just bought a cheap pair of speakers for my desktop, and it works perfectly fine. But in that process, I found Volume Master in the Play Store, and it was a free download. So I just downloaded. And so now I don't have such a problem watching things on my laptop because the sound is decent now again. And yeah, it was a great little app. Yeah. Um, it was the first time out of the country. Have you been out of the country since, Sharon? Have you gone any trips out of the country? Have you used your passport for anything, to do anything since then? Right? Hope it wasn't just a one-time thing, but it's a lot easier to renew a passport than it is to reapply for it, right? But yeah, I didn't want my I did aw. I Really? And with your son too, that you could get good deals on airplanes and go on a trip to, well, I guess you don't want to go to Mexico right now. I was actually thinking there's a thought leader that I follow. His name is Victor Otto. He's a really sweet man, right? But he wants to put on a retreat in Vallarta in Mexico, and it's a um what's it called? It's some kind of plant, and you do the plant, and you're supposed to be able to have crazy experiences. So it was kind of a retreat and experience that he does with his wife, because his wife is a shaman, and he likes astrology. And so I thought Awasaka or something like that. I can't remember what this plant was called. But I thought, I always wanted to meet him. I always thought, if I ever made it rich or ever had the opportunity, that I would love to go meet him. And then I actually did the research, and his retreats are not very expensive, $3,500 to $6,500. And I says, oh, well, this little something comes across my path, and I have that opportunity to go on one of those retreats and hang out with him and his wife, right? His wife is absolutely lovely too. And I would love to meet him, right? Shine a little bit of blue light on him. Okay, I've been back home uh, to WV and WV. What's WV? Home to WV and down to LA, where I used to live. But that's it. Well, that's still traveling. That's still traveling. Oh, and to Vegas a couple of times. Oh, I don't gamble. I don't gamble anymore, but my dad used to take us down to Vegas all the time. He would go down at least once a month. We lived in Vancouver, and he would just drive. It was just a 24-hour trip down there, right? But I loved it. I like when in Vegas and Reno, Nevada, you have the massage beds where you put a quarter in it, and the bed kind of does a little bit of a dance, a massage bed. Yeah, I used to like playing with those. My dad would always give me a handful of quarters. It was lots of fun, right? We always stayed at the Sands Motel, right? We could just play in the swimming pool when my dad and mom would go off gambling, and we us kids would be left alone to gamble. And actually, my dad picked me up from school one time. And I thought it was an emergency at home, right? Because the principal called me on his speaker. I ran to the office, and he said, your dad's waiting for you out in the parking lot. It's an emergency. And I went, oh, what's wrong, right? Because I was always worried about my dad because he had congenital heart failure, right? So he could have passed away at any time. And I just freaked out. And he rolled down the window of the car, and he says, Cindy, do you wanna go to Reno with me? And I went, oh, yes, please, right? And he had packed my bags, and we drove down to Reno. It was one of the most amazing trips, a trip that I will never forget. That one trip that me and my dad went, and I was always his lucky charm. And it was kind of neat because I was definitely his lucky charm that year, because when we got back, he made enough money to buy a brand new car. He bought expensive presents for everybody. He got to be the big shot for a little while. And it was a fun experience at the time. When we got home, oh my goodness, I paid for that trip. My mother was not happy because we were only supposed to be away for a few days, and we ended up being away for 3 weeks. Not only that, it was the most amazing 3 weeks ever. My dad packed us out of that Sands Motel with the swimming pool, and he took us to the Mapes Hotel. And the Mapes Hotel, I don't know if you know that hotel, but they at that time they had a show where they drove a great big 747 jet plane right onto the stage, and then the doors would open on the plane, and all the dancing girls would come off the plane, right? And he would go gambling, and he would give me a great big handful of money, and I had room service. And then I'd go down to the restaurant, and I had this fruit bowl. I'll never forget this fruit bowl. It was like this big, seriously, this big, this fruit bowl was. It was shaped like a big white shell, and it was a fruit salad with ice cream and yogurt and bananas and pineapple and cherries and grapes. It was just and toast. It was just so amazing. And then I went to one of those stores where you sit on the bench and then the ladies walk around in outfits. And I wanted to buy a designer outfit. I was just the little fat kid, right? I actually have a picture of the dress that I got. Oh, I don't know where that book is. I'll show it to you guys one time. I wanted a custom dress from one of these fancy shops, and I went in there and I sat on the bench with the other ladies, and the models came in and walked around with these outfits. And then the lady in the shop says, "Oh, I think I have the perfect dress for you, dear." And this lady walked out, and I knew it would fit me, right? It was a big, it was a big one size fit all dress, but it was really, really cute. I loved it. I put on that dress, and then right next door to this fancy dress shop was a big movie theater. And I remember I went to see Sinbad and the Seven Seas. I think that was what it was called, with the Cyclops and everything. And I just remembered that trip was so amazing. We bought all kinds of presents for my family and everything. I got to pick them all out except for the present for my mom, which my dad picked, which was a fancy watch. And when you lifted it up, there was a watch inside. It was all covered in semi-precious stones. And I remember when we got home and we gave the presents to everybody, everybody freaked out over the beautiful presents. And my mother took her watch. She didn't even look at it. She just chucked it at the wall. And she loved that watch, right? She had a moment with my dad to show my dad how mad she was that we were gone for 3 weeks. But she kept that watch in her jewelry box for the rest of her life, right? And my sister Alice has that watch right now. And yeah, so that trip was so amazing. But my dad got his very first brand new car. It was a great big Chrysler in a butterscotch color with windows that went down with buttons, and that was a rarity in the mid 70s, right? So he was just, and it was a trip of a lifetime. And I got to see him win the first few ones, right? Because we stood in the lobby. He let me stand in the lobby because the kids weren't allowed in the casinos, right? But we could stand in the lobby, but there would be machines in the lobby. And if you ever go to Vegas and Reno, they say that you should always play the slot machines by the entrances, because the odds of winning are higher, because it's meant to draw people into the casinos, right? So my dad hit $1,000, right, after only sitting there for a few minutes. And when he got that $1,000, he got these $50 or these $5 chips, and they were like really big. They were chips, and he played those big machines that are as tall as the ceiling of the house. And he put those chips in, and he got Men in the Barrels or something, and he won like $10,000 or something. And then he got six more chips, and he hit it again. And but that time he had like $100 chips, and he hit something really. I was too young to really remember. I think it was 15 or 16 years old, right? but but he hit it again, and that's when we went back to the motel. He packed us all up. We went to the Mapes Hotel. He left me there. I went down to the lobby, got myself a novel, and I just stayed in my luxury suite while my dad went off gambling. And that whole trip, he had the most amazing time. I had the most amazing time. And it was time that we were able to spend together, just me and him. My dad always made that time to spend time with me. Like, he used to take me out on fancy dates and stuff where we get dressed up. We go to a fancy hotel, or we go to the orchestra, or to a play, or right. And he made a point of doing things with me. But again, right, he wanted to do that because he knew that I was having a difficult time at home. So he was always trying to make up for what was not going right. I guess he kind of felt bad because my dad was a little bit of what an enabler, is that what that was? Because my mother was kind of heavy-handed, and she was kind of traumatized herself, and I guess because he was an enabler, he really felt bad that he couldn't do anything. He couldn't interfere, because if he interfered, it would be a whole lot worse for me, right? So he used to make up by doing these wonderful little adventures, just me and him. Okay, I don't know why I was just talking about Reno and Vegas, because, right, it was the experience. It wasn't the fact of gambling, right? For him, maybe it was, but for myself, it was the experience of going off and doing a trip with my dad, just me and him, and the fact that in that experience I got to have amazing experiences myself. And like I said, if I ever come across that picture of that dress, I'll show you I'll show you that picture, because I really loved that dress, right? Nobody else liked it on me. But then again, I'm thinking about it, it could have been jealousy and resentment, right? Because I thought I looked great in that dress, and I loved the dress, and I didn't really care what anybody else thought about it, but everybody seemed to have something to say about that outfit that would kind of make me feel bad about wearing it. But it didn't make a difference. I wore it until it fell apart. I really did. It was the emotional attachment. It was the story behind it, not the dress itself, right? I was just happy that I was able to find a dress that actually fit me from that shop. It would have been really embarrassing, but I think she knew that it was going to be difficult, that she specifically looked for dresses for those models that might fit me, right? But there were also other ladies looking at the outfits too. So there, but I knew that one she probably picked because she thought maybe I would like it, and it would fit me. Okay, you guys. So you know the score here. We're just going to grab a card. Um, see, um, went to see the Hoover Dam and sightsee while I was there. Oh, that would have been amazing, Hoover Dam. I don't think I've ever seen Hoover Dam. Maybe I did, right? If it was in Nevada, like, yeah, I'm sure my dad would have made a pit stop for us to see that. I know he made pit stop at the Grand Canyon. I know we saw the Grand Canyon. I don't remember much of it except those telescope things, where you can look at all the mountains and the canyon. Yeah, and I still like watching it. I watched the videos. There's explorers in Nevada, and they like to do the Grand Canyon because of the indigenous that lived there for thousands of years, and because it's so dry there, that the mud houses and the overhangs on the cliffs and stuff where they lived and are still there. And I love those little kinds of adventures, especially when they're walking and they find pottery and stuff from a civilization that's been gone for 1,000 years. They now say people have been in North America, right, for 20,000 years. They have been in the Americas, including South America, for at least 23,000 years. And up till about 5 years ago, they thought that, right, man had only been here for about 13,000 years. Yeah. Yeah, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Okay, you guys, you know the poop. Oh, a big pile of cards sitting down here on the ground. So what we do is just 54 powerful words. Each one is a powerful word. I pull a card and we just go into that word for a couple of minutes. And then we call it a night. Then I go into my thumbnail and whatever that card is, that's the title of my live, even though I chit chatted about, I don't know, a half a dozen other things in the meantime, but right, maybe it ties into the discussion. But I think it was a little bit of a multi discussion today, so it'll just be something on its own. Okay, you guys, here we go. I'm gonna take the front one today. Oh, here. This is so good. I haven't pulled this card yet. Oh my goodness. Dropping cards all over the place. I usually have a clean desk. We got that word understanding, right? And what we were talking about actually today, it kind of does tie in, right? Understanding comes from what you know to be true. We were talking about perspectives, right? And that understanding is our perspective. And we all have different perspectives, which means we all have different understandings. But in also, earlier I said, it takes all kinds to make the world. And it's just finding that dance that we can have with each other, right? In knowing that we all have different perspectives, different beliefs, different truths for ourselves, right? And if we can understand that, right, we can move together even though we're different. That's why I'm a little bit optimistic with what's going on in Iran right now. I think it's going to be a good thing. I'm a believer that, you got to make a mess to clean a mess. And it's unfortunate, that there is suffering and there's a horrible mess going on, but I am optimistic, right? That they're going to come out of that and we are going to be able to have relationships with people that we might not have ever been able to civilly be able to get along with, let alone possibly be friends with. It was kind of odd because the day before all of that happened, I had messaged because I heard a little bit about Trump talking about what was going on and they better smarten up or they're going in or something like that. And I said, oh my goodness, the pot's getting stirred, right? So I messaged them just to check on them, send them some good cheer, say hello, let them know I was thinking of them, right? Talked a little bit about change. And then the very next day, right? All hell broke loose. Not only did all hell broke loose, I don't even think they got the message, right? Because I usually hear back from them almost immediately. We're really pretty close, even though I've never met them personally, right? They've invited me to the religious dinners and stuff that they have for different religious celebrations that they do, and they included me in that in their videos and right in their meals and stuff. And I thought, oh, that was so sweet, and they remembered me and they kept in contact with me and I with them. And I don't know why I made such a great connection with them, but I did. And I was a little bit concerned. So I just thought, well, I better say hi. And they didn't get back to me. So I think like their internet got cut down, like the country just shut it down. So it might be down for the count for a while anyway. But I am optimistic, right? That they'll be okay. They had a vacation area, so I'm kind of hoping that maybe they just left the city altogether and then just took a little vacation out in the country at their other house, right? Until all of this blows over. But that's just one family. I know a few people in Iran and they are lovely people. They really are really lovely people. And it's that idea that sometimes it's just one bad apple and then we just attribute it to everybody. And because in media, right, everybody's vying for our attention, and because our attention gets attracted to the hairy, scary, to all the bad stuff that we just kind of, right, we just kind of believe it, don't we? And again, it's We're listening to somebody else's perspective and not really feeling it out because we don't really understand, right? And we don't know these people. We're divvying out those perspectives, but because it's being divvied out, we munch it down like it's popcorn, right? Okay, did I shuffle that card into it again? Yeah, understanding. Understanding comes from what you know to be true. And that's exactly true, right? It's what each one of us knows to be true. That's our understandings, that's our perspectives. And each one of us has the right to move with our own perspectives. And that's a part of what's going on in this world is to give everybody that voice so that not everybody is under somebody else's thumb, under somebody else's idea, and then we don't get these funny ideas ourselves as to good guys and bad guys that possibly we can just take each person individually on their own merit, right? Okay, I think I've yabbered enough. Sharon, it was really nice to see you tonight. Really nice to see you. Tammy, thank you so much. And thank you for being in my videos today. I really liked the video that you picked. That was a lot of fun for me. I remember that homestead very, very well. I remember how much fun it was in poking around that place. But I also know that house was ready to fall in. Yeah, for sure. I know the floor was already falling in, but yeah, I didn't even walk inside. I just peeked in the windows because it was ready to drop. Okay, you guys. Eugene, thank you so much. Also, you guys, anybody who pops in later, put your feet up. I hope you're having an amazing week. I know, right? Change is not fun, but if we could just kind of accept that things are going to fall into place the way they're going to fall into place, and right, we might be better for it, right? If we give things to settle down a little bit of a chance, right? Okay, you guys, have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.